Before I begin, I would like each of you to turn to the person next to you. We're going to do something called clearing our listening. I want you to turn to the person next to you. Don't write a novel. Just pick two things that right in this moment might be obstacles to your listening and share that with the person next to you and then return that. Two things that might be an obstacle in this moment to your listening. Just share it. Clear that. Good, thank you. So as Jan said, I'm currently a student at Columbia University in a Master's of Science program in narrative medicine. And this little exercise we just did is a narrative medicine practice where before we enter a space where we want to listen, need to listen to someone, we clear our listening by acknowledging whatever obstacles might be in the way of it. As I of course had a whole thing all planned out, and as I've been listening, as a result of my listening today, throughout the day, and just in the last short while, I'm going to respond to what I'm hearing and what I have listened to, rather than come with an agenda or an assumption, which is what we usually do when we're listening. We listen with an agenda, we listen with our assumptions. We are co-constructed beings. Everything that we have become in relation to other people. Part of the heart of narrative medicine is the philosophy of Emmanuel Levinas, who says, the other's material needs are my spiritual needs. Telling and listening are material needs. We create our life in stories. Our stories are shaped by the way other people listen to us. So the telling is always shaped by the listening. A good way to disempower someone is to not listen to them. How many of you, I want you to just think for a minute, when was the last time you really felt listened to? Not just, somebody thinking, okay, well, so while I'm just checking my messages here, yeah, I'm listening. But really, somebody sat and was present to you and listened. When was the last time? And how did that feel? Because when we're heard, we feel recognized. When we're listened to, we appear not only to the other, but to ourselves. So we're always created in the eyes of the other, and in the listening of the other, and in reaction to the other. And in that way, we are co-constructed beings, and our stories are co-constructed. So right now I'm in a place where I'm learning all about listening, and I'm really jazzed, and everything's coming out of the listening. Check with me next year when I'm learning something else. It'll all be coming out of that. But right now it's all coming out of the listening. So I want to acknowledge that I first arrived here at Skidmore 30 years ago this year. I was 32. I was in a state. I'd gone through my dark night of the soul. I saw myself as pretty broken. My sister, who was my soulmate, had died, as Jan told you. My first marriage ended. And my sister had said to me just before she died, I was a young actress. She says, it's not that I think you're a bad actress, but that's not what you're meant to do. Now, this was just 24 hours before she passed. I figured she was so close, I was getting divine instruction. So guess what? I listened. And she said, you're meant to write and you're meant to teach. And if you don't write and you don't teach, you won't meet the people you're supposed to meet to become the person you're meant to become. You're going to start with telling the story of what we lived through together. Promise me. I promise. No, promise me. I promise. No, promise me. So I made the promise. 6 months later, my marriage ended. 3 months after that, it was like my life had ruptured so that this person could walk into it. And it was a man, okay. You know, Glamour magazine says this is the worst time to be doing this, but I knew I was going to be doing this. So I fell in love with the man who is the love of my life and to whom I have been married now for 28 years. And in 1983, I moved here to New York to be with him. And in 1984, I came to Skidmore, to the International Women's Writing Guild. And in a sense, I was created from that point on, and my book was created out of the listening, particularly of this man who became my husband, and of my first real teacher, June Gould. And in the first class I went in, and June was there, and I just got up and read one little snippet, but June listened. And that listening kept me alive, honestly. And then through the next 20 years, the listening of all the women in this place every summer kept me alive and kept my story going because it was being received. My story was being received. So the book came out, and I don't want to waste a lot of time on this, but let's just say it led me, the book itself started to lead me, and I followed. And as I was turning 60, I thought to myself, all my life, I've decided what I wanted, and I've put my stake in the ground and gone after it. Now there's going to be a change. I'm going to get quiet. I'm going to wait. I'm going to allow myself to be called. I'm going to listen to what's out here. I'm going to listen to what's in here. Something's going to come, and I don't know what it is. And what came was Dr. Rita Sharon, who's the founder of the narrative medicine program at Columbia University. And she gave a workshop at Memorial Sloan Kettering where I was a volunteer. And I heard about this program. So I knew I had to partake in it. So I applied, and I interviewed, and I wrote my statement, and I got all jazzed, because I thought, you know, this is it. I'm being called, man. I'm going there. This is the rest of my life. And they said, very nice, but we can't accept you because you don't have an undergraduate degree, in the state of New York will not allow us to have you in the program. Okay, I'll go get my undergraduate degree. And that's what I did. I phoned Ryerson University in Toronto, which is where I had been in theater school. And I said, what's it going to take? We got to put something together quick. I haven't got a lot of time to waste on this because I just turned 60. You know, we got to move things along. So they took my, very kindly, they took my professional resume as an actor, as my 5 majors. And so I had 4 liberal arts electives to complete. And I was able to do that online. And in preparation for getting into Columbia, I took very non-theatrical courses, even though I was going to graduate with a BFA in theater. I took women's literary theory. I took critical thinking, sociology, and bioethics. And then I went back and I reapplied. And, you know, I think they were a little stunned there at Columbia that this old broad was coming back at them again. Sorry, I don't give up, okay? Here I am, back on your door. Say no again, and, you know, you're in trouble. Forget it. So they let me in. So I've been there for a year. And And that's been interesting. Just before I started school last fall, Jan says we got to talk about overcoming obstacles. So just before I started school, I was diagnosed with ADHD, which I have apparently had all my life, and I was told the impairment is significant. So as I was starting school, I was starting on this new medication, and so that just put another element into it. The point being that the reason I was diagnosed is because a doctor listened to me. I went in and I said, I was at school all last year, and God, I think I'm just too smart for it to have been that hard. Something's wrong with me. My granddaughter has ADHD, Maybe I do too. And so, this is what ADHD looks like. This piece I have with it, just because my mind's always revising. So, in the few minutes I have left, do I have a few minutes left? 2 minutes and that's it. All right. So, in the last 2 minutes, because I was going to tell you all about narrative medicine and do a whole thing on listening, but you get it. That's okay. What I want you to do then is start listening to yourself. If we don't listen to ourselves and we're not taught how to, then how can we listen to others? I want you to listen to yourself. I want you to listen to what's out there in the universe. I want that relationship, that reciprocity to start happening consciously. I want you to clear your listening this weekend before you go into class. Do this little exercise. Turn to somebody and say, here's what my obstacle to listening is. If you're alone and you're trying to listen to yourself, think what your obstacle to listening to yourself might be and clear it. And then if you want to advocate for yourself through your life, as I have done, insisting on your own growth, you want to advocate for others, women's voices, women's vision, your voice and your vision start with listening. Just listen. That's all you have to do. It's all any of us have to do. Just listen. And thank you for listening.